The stars burned like cold fire against the endless black, their light barely reaching the rusted hull of my ship, the Wanderer. I leaned back in the pilot's chair, the hum of the engines a familiar lullaby, and stared at the holographic display flickering with coordinates I didn't recognize. 3 years I'd been out here, scavenging wrecks, trading scraps, and dodging pirates in the Orion Spur. A loner by choice, a survivor by necessity. My name's Eli, and the galaxy hadn't exactly been kind to me. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened on that fateful day in the Zarathian void. It started with a distress signal, faint and garbled, pulsing through the comms like a dying heartbeat. I almost ignored it. Out here, distress calls were usually traps, pirates luring fools into ambushes. But something about the signal's frequency, its strange, melodic undertone, made my gut twist. Against my better judgment, I punched the coordinates into the nav system. The Wanderer groaned as it shifted course, slicing through the void toward an uncharted asteroid belt. The source was a derelict ship, a sleek, organic-looking vessel unlike anything human or even Craxian. Its hull shimmered with an iridescent glow, like the inside of a seashell, and it was half-lodged in a massive asteroid. No signs of life, no weapons signatures, just silence. I suited up, grabbed my plasma cutter, and tethered myself to the wreck. The galaxy didn't reward hesitation, and I wasn't about to let a potential salvage slip through my fingers. Inside, the ship was a labyrinth of smooth, curved corridors that pulsed faintly with bioluminescent light. The air was breathable, but it carried a strange, sweet scent, like jasmine mixed with ozone. My boots echoed on the glassy floor as I ventured deeper, my flashlight cutting through the dimness. That's when I saw them. 2 figures slumped against a console in what looked like a control room. My heart stopped. They were alien, but not like any species I'd encountered. Twin sisters, unmistakably, their features mirror images of each other. Long, silvery white hair cascaded over their shoulders, shimmering like liquid moonlight. Their ears, pointed and fox-like, twitched faintly, even in their unconscious state. They wore form-fitting outfits made of some kind of fur-like material, soft and pale, hugging their slender frames. Their skin was a soft lavender, glowing faintly in the dark, and their closed eyes had lashes that seemed too long to be real. I stood there, frozen, my breath catching in my throat. They were beautiful in a way that felt almost wrong to notice. But there was something else, a quiet strength in their stillness, a sense that they were more than they seemed. I shook myself out of it. This wasn't the time to gawk. I checked their vitals with my scanner. Alive, but barely. Low oxygen, maybe a failing life support system. I didn't know their biology, but I wasn't about to let them die. I slung one over each shoulder, lighter than I expected, and hauled them back to the Wanderer. The ship's medbay wasn't much, but it had enough to stabilize them. I hooked them up to oxygen, ran a basic bioscan, and waited. Hours passed. I sat by the medbay, sipping stale coffee, my mind racing. Who were they? Why were they on that wreck? And why did I feel this strange pull, like I was meant to find them? The galaxy was full of mysteries, but this one felt personal. That's when the comms crackled to life, and a voice, deep, resonant, and distinctly not human, filled the cabin. Human vessel, you have retrieved the Daughters of Zarathia. State your intent. I nearly choked on my coffee. Daughters of Zarathia? I glanced at the twins, still unconscious, their chests rising and falling softly. The voice came again, colder this time. You have 1 cycle to respond, or we will assume hostility. I hit the comms button, my voice steadier than I felt. This is Eli, captain of the Wanderer. I found your daughters on a wrecked ship. They're alive, stabilized in my medbay. I'm not looking for trouble. Silence. Then a new voice, softer but commanding, like silk over steel. You speak truth, human. We are the Council of Zarathia. You have earned our gratitude and a reward. Dock at our coordinates. Refusal is not advised. The transmission cut off, and a set of coordinates blinked onto my screen. Zarathia. I'd heard whispers of it. A reclusive alien empire, advanced beyond human comprehension, hidden in the void. Most spacers thought it was a myth, but myths don't send you docking instructions. I looked at the twins again. One stirred, her fox-like ears twitching, and for a split second, her eyes fluttered open. They were a piercing gold, like twin suns, and they locked onto mine with an intensity that made my heart skip. She whispered something, too faint to hear, before slipping back into unconsciousness. My pulse raced. Whatever I'd stumbled into, there was no going back. The journey to Zarathia took 2 days, and I barely slept. The twins, Lyra and Zara, I'd later learn, remained stable but unconscious. I checked on them constantly, my mind torn between curiosity and dread. What kind of reward did an empire like Zarathia offer? Credits? Tech? Or something I couldn't even imagine? When we arrived, I was speechless. Zarathia wasn't a planet. It was a constellation of floating citadels, each a masterpiece of crystal and metal, orbiting a massive, glowing star. My little junker of a ship felt like a speck of dust next to their grandeur. A docking beam guided the Wanderer into a hangar the size of a small city, and I was escorted by silent, towering guards in shimmering armor to a grand chamber. The council awaited me, 7 figures cloaked in light, their faces hidden behind masks that shifted like liquid. The air hummed with energy, and I felt like an ant standing before gods. The central figure, the one with the silken voice, spoke. "Eli of Earth, you have returned our daughters, Lyra and Zara, heirs of Zarathia. For this, we grant you a gift beyond price." I swallowed hard, expecting a crate of rare minerals or maybe a fancy weapon. Instead, the figure gestured, and Lyra and Zara stepped forward. They were awake now, their golden eyes fixed on me, their movements graceful and deliberate. Their fur-clad outfits caught the light, and I couldn't help but notice how they seemed to radiate warmth, like they were made of starlight. "They are yours," the council said. "Lyra and Zara, bound to you as your companions, your protectors, your anything you desire. This is the way of Zarathia." My jaw dropped. Companions? Protectors? The implications hit me like a freight train. These weren't just any aliens. They were royalty, and the council was handing them to me like a prize. I glanced at Lyra and Zara, expecting outrage or fear, but their expressions were unreadable, their golden eyes studying me with a mix of curiosity and something deeper, something that made my stomach flip. I don't understand," I stammered. "Why me? I'm just a scavenger." The council's leader tilted their head, and I swore I heard a faint chuckle. "The galaxy is vast, Eli of Earth, and fate is not random. You will see." Before I could protest, the chamber filled with light, and I was back on the Wanderer, Lyra and Zara standing beside me. The docking beam released my ship, and we were drifting back into the void. I turned to the twins, my mind a whirlwind. They were awake, alert, and watching me like I was the most fascinating thing in the universe. "Eli," Lyra said, her voice soft but clear like a melody. "You saved us." Zara stepped closer, her gaze intense. "We are yours now. What will you do with us?" I opened my mouth, but no words came. The galaxy had just thrown me the strangest curveball of my life, and I had no idea what came next. But one thing was clear. Lyra, Zara, and I were bound together now, and whatever happened, it was going to shake the stars. The hum of the Wanderer's engines filled the silence as I stood in the cockpit, my hands gripping the edge of the console. Lyra and Zara's question hung in the air like a charged current. "What will you do with us?" Their golden eyes, twin suns in the dim light, bore into me, and I felt the weight of their gaze like a physical touch. The galaxy had always been a place of hard choices and harder truths, but this was something else entirely. I wasn't just a scavenger anymore. I was, what? Their master? Their savior? Their something else. My pulse quickened, and I turned away, pretending to check the nav system, anything to break the intensity of their stare. "First things first," I said, my voice rougher than I intended. "We need to figure out what's going on, why the council gave you to me, and what you want." I glanced back, half expecting them to be confused or angry, but Lyra's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile, and Zara tilted her head, her fox-like ears twitching as if catching a sound I couldn't hear. "What we want?" Lyra's voice was like a breeze over water, soft but deliberate. She stepped closer, her fur-clad form gliding across the cockpit floor, the faint shimmer of her lavender skin catching the light. "In Zarathia, to be given is to be bound. We are yours, Eli, by the will of the council. But," she paused, her eyes flickering with something unreadable, "we are not without our own desires." Zara moved to my other side, her presence just as magnetic, her scent, that same jasmine ozone mix from the wreck, filling the air. "You saved us," she said, her voice a touch deeper than Lyra's, laced with a quiet intensity. "In our culture, that creates a debt, a bond, one we cannot ignore." Her fingers brushed the edge of the console, inches from mine, and I swear the air crackled. My throat went dry, This wasn't just gratitude. This was something more, something that made my blood hum and my thoughts scatter. I took a step back, my back brushing against the pilot's chair. Look, I don't own people. Or aliens. Whatever this is, I didn't ask for it. My words sounded hollow even to me. The truth was, I didn't know what I wanted either. Lyra and Zara were unlike anyone I'd ever met, human or otherwise. They were royalty, warriors, mysteries wrapped in starlight, and they were looking at me like I was the answer to a question they hadn't asked yet. Lyra's smile widened, and she exchanged a glance with Zara, a silent conversation passing between them. "You misunderstand, Eli," she said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "This is not ownership. This is partnership, a dance, if you will." She leaned closer, her breath warm against my cheek, and my heart slammed against my ribs. "And we are very good at dancing." Before I could respond, an alarm blared, sharp and insistent, shattering the moment. The cockpit lights flashed red, and the nav screen lit up with a proximity warning. Proximity alert. The ship's VI droned. Unidentified vessel approaching at high velocity. I spun to the console, my instincts kicking in. "Strap in," I barked, sliding into the pilot's chair. Lyra and Zara moved with eerie grace, settling into the co-pilot seats, their expressions shifting from playful to razor-sharp focus. I pulled up the sensor data. A sleek, predatory ship was closing in fast, its hull marked with jagged runes I didn't recognize. Pirates, bounty hunters, or something worse? "Eli," Zara said, her voice calm but urgent, "those are Craxian raiders. They hunt Zarathian vessels. They must have tracked us from the wreck." Craxians, I cursed under my breath. The Craxians were a brutal species, insectoid and relentless, known for stripping ships to scrap and selling survivors into slavery. I'd tangled with them once before and barely got out alive. "How do they know you're here?" Lyra's fingers danced over the auxiliary console, pulling up a schematic of the Wanderer's defenses. "Our ship's distress signal," she said. "It was encrypted, but Craxians are skilled at breaking Zarathian codes. They likely know who we are." Great, just great. I wasn't just babysitting alien princesses, I was a target. I punched the throttle, sending the Wanderer into a sharp dive toward a nearby nebula. The cloud of ionized gas might scramble their sensors, but it was a gamble. The ship groaned under the strain, and I felt the twins' eyes on me, not with fear but with something like trust. It was unnerving. "Hold on," I said, weaving through a field of asteroids, the Craxian ship hot on our tail. Their first shot grazed our shields, sending a shudder through the hull. I gritted my teeth and flipped the ship into a corkscrew maneuver, narrowly dodging a second blast. Lyra leaned over, her hand brushing mine as she adjusted the shield harmonics, her touch lingering just a moment too long. My skin burned where her fingers had been, and I forced myself to focus. This was not the time to get distracted. Zara, meanwhile, was scanning the Craxian ship's weak points. "Their ventral armor is thin," she said, her voice steady. "A precise hit could disable their weapons." Her golden eyes met mine, and there was a challenge in them, like she was daring me to prove myself. I didn't know if I was more terrified or exhilarated. I swung the Wanderer around, lining up a shot with our pulse cannon. The Craxians fired again, and this time the hit rocked us hard, sparks flying from the console. Lyra grabbed my arm to steady herself, her grip strong, her body pressed close for a fleeting second. "You can do this, Eli," she whispered, her voice a lifeline in the chaos. I nodded, my jaw tight, and fired. The pulse cannon roared, a beam of white-hot energy lancing through the void. It struck the Craxian ship's underbelly, and a satisfying explosion bloomed across their hull. Their weapons went dark, and they veered off, limping into the nebula. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding, my hands shaking on the controls. "We're clear," I said, slumping back in the chair. The nebula's glow bathed the cockpit in a soft purple haze, and for a moment, it was just the three of us, the danger fading like a bad dream. Lyra and Zara unstrapped themselves, moving to stand before me, their expressions unreadable but intense. "You fought well," Zara said, her voice low, almost husky. She stepped closer, her fur-clad form casting a shadow over me, and I couldn't look away from the way her lavender skin seemed to pulse faintly, like a heartbeat. "Most would have fled. You stayed." Lyra knelt beside my chair, her golden eyes level with mine, her white hair brushing my arm. "You protected us," she said, her voice a caress. "In Zarathia, such acts are intimate." Her fingers traced the edge of my sleeve, a feather-light touch that sent a jolt through me. I swallowed hard, my mind screaming to keep my cool, but my body had other ideas. I was just doing what I had to, I managed, but the words felt weak. The air between us was thick, charged with something I couldn't name. Zara leaned in, her breath warm against my other ear. "And yet, you did it for us," she murmured. "That makes you more than a scavenger, Eli." I was drowning in their presence, their warmth, their scent. The cockpit felt too small, the stars too close. I wanted to say something, to set boundaries, to remind them I was just a guy trying to survive. But the way they looked at me, like I was their entire universe, made my resolve crumble. And then, just as Lyra's hand slid to my wrist, the comms crackled again. "Human vessel," a new voice growled, colder and more menacing than the council's. "You carry the heirs of Zarathia. Surrender them, or we will burn your ship to ash." My heart sank. The Craxians weren't done with us. And this time, they weren't alone. The Craxian's voice cut through the cockpit like a blade, its guttural rasp sending a chill down my spine. "Surrender them, or we will burn your ship to ash." The words echoed in the sudden silence, the nebula's purple glow casting eerie shadows across Lyra and Zara's faces. Their golden eyes, so warm and inviting moments ago, now burned with a fierce determination that made my chest tight. I was still reeling from their closeness, the electric charge of their touch lingering on my skin, but the threat on the comms snapped me back to reality. We weren't out of danger yet, not by a long shot. I slammed my hand on the comms button, my voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding my veins. "This is Eli, captain of the Wanderer. You want the heirs? Come and get them." I cut the transmission before they could respond, my heart pounding. Taunting a Craxian warship wasn't my smartest move, but I'd learned long ago that hesitation in the void was a death sentence. Besides, something about Lyra and Zara's unwavering gazes made me feel like I could take on the galaxy itself. "Eli," Zara said, her voice low and urgent, "there are 3 Craxian ships now. They've cloaked, but I can sense their signatures." She tapped the console, her fingers moving with a precision that spoke of years of training. A holographic display flickered to life, showing 3 red blips circling us like wolves in the nebula's haze. My stomach dropped. 1 ship was bad enough. 3, we were outgunned, outmaneuvered, and out of luck. Lyra leaned over my shoulder, her white hair brushing my cheek, her scent wrapping around me like a promise. "We can't outrun them," she said, her tone calm but edged with steel. "But we can fight. The Wanderer has hidden strengths, doesn't it?" Her golden eyes flicked to mine, a challenge and a trust woven together. I nodded, my mind racing. She was right. My ship was a junker on the outside, but I'd spent years rigging it with tricks, smugglers' compartments, overclocked shields, and a few illegal mods that could pack a punch. "Strap in," I said, diving into the pilot's chair. "This is gonna get rough." Lyra and Zara moved as one, their fur-clad forms settling into the co-pilot seats, their movements fluid and synchronized. I punched the controls, sending the Wanderer into a tight spiral through the nebula's swirling clouds. The sensors screamed as the Craxian ships decloaked, their jagged hulls gleaming like the exoskeletons of giant insects. They opened fire, plasma bolts streaking past us, each one close enough to make the shields flare. I weaved through the nebula, using the gas clouds to mask our signature, but the Craxians were relentless. A direct hit rocked the ship, and sparks rained from the ceiling. Zara cursed in a language I didn't know, her hands flying over the weapon's console. "Shields at 60%, she reported, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We need to hit their lead ship's core. It's their command vessel." "On it," I growled, flipping a switch to activate my pride and joy. A prototype ion lance I'd salvaged from a derelict Terran warship. It was untested, unstable, and probably a bad idea, but we were out of good ones. I lined up the shot, my hands slick with sweat, and fired. A beam of crackling blue energy lanced through the void, striking the lead Craxian ship dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then its hull erupted in a cascade of fire and debris, the explosion lighting up the nebula like a second sun. Lyra let out a triumphant laugh, her voice bright and wild, and Zara's lips curled into a fierce grin. "Well done, Eli," Zara said, her tone laced with something that made my blood heat. But there was no time to celebrate. The remaining 2 ships retaliated with a barrage that slammed the Wanderer hard, sending us spinning. Alarms blared, and the cockpit filled with smoke. I fought the controls, trying to stabilize us, but the damage readouts were grim. Hull breaches on decks 2 and 3, engines at half power. We were sitting ducks. That's when Lyra did something I didn't expect. She unstrapped herself, ignoring my shouted protest, and moved to a panel I'd never noticed before, hidden beneath the co-pilot's console. Her fingers danced over it, and a soft hum filled the ship, different from the engines, a sound that felt almost alive. "What are you doing?" I demanded, wrestling with the controls as another blast shook us. "Activating the Zarathian beacon," she said, her voice steady but strained. "It's part of our ship's core, integrated into the Wanderer when we docked. It will call for aid." "Aid?" I snapped, dodging another salvo. "From who?" "The Council's half a sector away." Zara's hand found my shoulder, her touch grounding me even as the ship shuddered. "Not the Council," she said, her golden eyes blazing. "Our kin, the daughters of Zarathia." Her words carried a weight I didn't understand, but before I could ask, the panel Lyra was working on flared with light, and a pulse of energy shot out from the Wanderer, rippling through the nebula. For a moment, nothing happened. The Craxians closed in, their weapons charging for a killing blow. I braced myself, my mind flashing to Lyra and Zara, their strength, their beauty, the way they'd trusted me when I barely trusted myself. If this was the end, at least we'd gone down fighting. But then the sensors screamed again, not with a warning but with something new. A fleet of ships, dozens of them, dropped out of hyperspace, their sleek, organic designs unmistakable. Zarathian warships, each one a work of art, their hulls shimmering like the wreck where I'd found the twins. The Craxians froze, their ships hesitating as the Zarathian fleet fanned out, weapons hot. A new voice crackled over the comms, female and commanding, laced with an authority that made the Craxians seem small. "This is Commander Tiva of the Zarathian Vanguard. Release the heirs or be erased from the stars." The Craxians didn't stand a chance. The Zarathian ships opened fire, their weapons unlike anything I'd seen, beams of light that seemed to twist and dance, carving through the enemy hulls like paper. Within minutes, one Craxian ship was a smoldering wreck, and the other was fleeing into the nebula, trailing debris. The Zarathians didn't pursue. Instead, a single ship, smaller but no less majestic, broke off and approached the Wanderer. Lyra and Zara exchanged a glance, their expressions a mix of relief and something else. Apprehension, maybe. "Our kin," Lyra said softly, her hand brushing mine as she stood. "They will want answers, and they will want to meet you." "Meet me?" I said, my voice hoarse. "I'm just the guy who didn't let you die." Zara's lips twitched, almost a smile. "You are more than that, Eli. You proved it today." She stepped closer, her body inches from mine, and for a moment, the chaos of the battle faded. Her fingers grazed my jaw, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver through me. "But be warned," she whispered. "Our kin are protective, and they will test you." Before I could process that, the Zarathian ship hailed us, and Commander Tiva's face appeared on the view screen. She was striking, with the same lavender skin and white hair as Lyra and Zara, but her eyes were a deep emerald, and her presence radiated power. "Heirs of Zarathia," she said, her gaze flicking to me, "and the human who carries their bond. Dock with us. We have much to discuss." The screen went dark, and I slumped back in my chair, my mind spinning. We survived the Craxians, but this felt like stepping out of one fire and into another. Lyra and Zara stood on either side of me, their warmth a quiet anchor in the storm. "What now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Lyra's hand found mine, her grip firm and steady. "Now, Eli," she said, her voice soft but resolute, "we face our future, together." As the Wanderer drifted toward the Zarathian ship, I couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning, and that Lyra and Zara were about to pull me into a world I could never have imagined. The docking clamps of the Zarathian ship locked onto the Wanderer with a gentle thud, but my heart was anything but steady. Lyra's hand lingered in mine, her touch a quiet promise as we drifted toward Commander Tiva's vessel. Zara stood close on my other side, her golden eyes scanning the cockpit with a vigilance that made me wonder what she expected. The battle with the Craxians was over, but the air still crackled with tension, like the calm before a storm I couldn't yet see. I'd faced pirates, smugglers, and worse in my years scavenging the void, but nothing prepared me for the prospect of meeting a Zarathian commander who just called me, the human who carries their bond. Whatever that meant, it sounded like trouble. Ready? Lyra asked, her voice soft but laced with a teasing edge. Her fox-like ears twitched, and I caught the faintest smirk on her lips, like she knew something I didn't. Ready as I'll ever be, I muttered, wiping my sweaty palms on my jacket. Any tips for meeting your kin? Like, do I bow, salute, or just try not to trip over my own feet? Zara chuckled, a low, melodic sound that caught me off guard. Just be yourself, Eli, she said, her hand brushing my arm as she moved toward the airlock. That's been enough so far. Her touch sent a jolt through me, and I swear she lingered a moment longer than necessary. My face heated, and I turned away, pretending to check the docking controls. These two were going to be the death of me, and we hadn't even left the ship yet. The airlock hissed open, revealing a corridor of polished crystal that shimmered like a frozen aurora. 2 Zarathian guards, tall and imposing in their shimmering armor, waited for us. Their lavender skin and white hair marked them as kin to Lyra and Zara, but their expressions were stone cold, and their emerald eyes sized me up like I was a stray dog who'd wandered into a palace. I straightened, trying to look like I belonged, but the weight of their stares made my skin prickle. Lyra and Zara walked ahead, their fur-clad forms moving with a grace that made the corridor feel like a stage. I followed, feeling distinctly out of place in my scuffed boots and patched jacket. The guards fell into step behind us, and I couldn't shake the feeling I was being marched to a trial rather than a meeting. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling a dome of swirling light that mimicked a starry sky. At its center stood Commander Tiva, her presence commanding every inch of the room. Tiva was a vision of power, her white hair braided into an intricate crown, her emerald eyes piercing through me like they could see my soul. Her fur-like armor was more elaborate than Lyra and Zara's, adorned with glowing runes that pulsed with energy. She stood flanked by a dozen other Zarathians, warriors, advisors, maybe both, each one watching me with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. This wasn't just a meeting. This was a reckoning. Lyra, Zara, Tiva said, her voice resonant and warm as she stepped forward to embrace the twins. You are safe, and for that, we are grateful. Her gaze shifted to me, and the warmth faded, replaced by a scrutiny that made my knees weak. Eli of Earth, the human who defied Craxian raiders to protect our heirs. Step forward. I did, though my legs felt like they might betray me. Hi, I said, immediately cringing at how dumb that sounded. A few of the Zarathians exchanged glances, and I swore I heard a stifled laugh. Lyra bit her lip, clearly fighting a smile, while Zara's ears twitched in amusement. Great. I was already off to a stellar start. Tiva's expression didn't change. You have earned the gratitude of Zarathia, she said, her tone measured. But you have also claimed a bond with our heirs, a sacred pact in our culture. Explain yourself. Why did you accept Lyra and Zara as your companions? I blinked, my mind scrambling. Accept? I mean the council just gave them to me. I wasn't trying to claim anything. My voice rose, and I felt the room's attention sharpen. Lyra and Zara stood silently, their faces unreadable, but I could feel their eyes on me, waiting for what I'd say next. Tiva raised an eyebrow, and the room seemed to hold its breath. Gave them? She repeated, her voice dangerously soft. The council does not act without purpose. They saw something in you, human. And yet, you stand here, unaware of the weight of your actions. She stepped closer, her presence overwhelming, and I fought the urge to back away. Do you understand what it means to be bound to the heirs of Zarathia? To be their protector, their confidant, their partner? The word hung in the air, heavy with implications. My face burned, and I glanced at Lyra and Zara, hoping for a lifeline. Lyra's golden eyes sparkled with mischief, and Zara's lips curved into a faint, almost predatory smile. Oh, they were enjoying this way too much. I'm just a scavenger, I stammered. I don't know about bonds or partners. I was just trying to do the right thing. A ripple of murmurs ran through the room, some amused, some skeptical. Tiva's gaze softened, but only slightly. The right thing, she echoed, as if testing the words. A rare trait in the galaxy, but the bond is not a choice, Eli, it is a destiny, and destinies are tested. Before I could ask what that meant, a loud chime echoed through the chamber, and a holographic display flickered to life above us. It showed a star map with a pulsing red signal emanating from a nearby system. Tiva's expression darkened. The Craxians, she said, her voice tight. They've regrouped and allied with a rogue faction. They're targeting our outer colonies, and they know you carry the airs. My stomach dropped. Me, why do they care about me? Tiva's eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of respect. Because you are their bond, Eli. In their eyes, you are a threat, a human who dares to stand with Zerathia, and they will stop at nothing to destroy you. The room erupted into controlled chaos, as advisors barked orders and warriors prepared for battle. Lyra and Zara moved to my side, their warmth a quiet anchor in the storm. "We need to move," Zara said, her voice low and urgent. "The colonies are defenseless without us." "Us?" I said, my head spinning. "I'm not a soldier. I'm just—" "Enough," Lyra interrupted, her hand gripping my arm, her golden eyes fierce. "You fought for us once, Eli. You'll do it again. We believe in you." Her words were a spark, igniting something deep inside me, but the moment was cut short by an awkward realization. I had no idea how to address Tiva or the council in a war council. Was I supposed to salute? Kneel? Offer a high five? Zara seemed to sense my panic. "Follow our lead," she whispered, leaning close enough that her breath tickled my ear. "And try not to call Tiva high again." Her teasing tone broke the tension, and I let out a shaky laugh, earning a curious glance from one of the guards. Tiva's voice cut through the noise. "Eli, Lyra, Zara, you will join the vanguard on the Starspire, our flagship. We depart immediately. Prove your bond, human, or lose it forever." Her words were a challenge, a gauntlet thrown at my feet, and I felt the weight of every eye in the room. As we were ushered toward the Starspire, Lyra slipped her hand into mine, her touch steadying me. "You're doing fine," she murmured, her voice a soft melody. "For a human." "Gee, thanks," I said, rolling my eyes, but her smile made my heart skip. Zara fell into step on my other side, her shoulder brushing mine, and I realized I was flanked by two alien princesses who seemed far too comfortable with me. The guards behind us muttered something in Zerathian, and I caught the word human paired with what sounded like a snicker. Great. I was the galaxy's most awkward hero, and everyone knew it. The Starspire's hangar was a marvel, filled with sleek fighters and bustling crews, but my attention was pulled to the looming battle ahead. The Craxians wanted Lyra and Zara, and they saw me as the weak link. I wasn't sure if I was ready to prove them wrong, but as Lyra's fingers tightened around mine and Zara's gaze burned with unspoken faith, I knew one thing: I wasn't backing down. Not now, not ever. The Starspire's hangar buzzed with the controlled chaos of a warship preparing for battle. But as Lyra's hand lingered in mine and Zara's shoulder brushed against me, the noise faded to a distant hum. The weight of Commander Tiva's challenge, "Prove your bond or lose it forever," hung over me like a storm cloud, but it was the twins' presence that set my nerves alight. Their golden eyes, their warmth, the way they moved with a grace that seemed to pull me into their orbit. It was intoxicating, and I was struggling to keep my head clear. We were headed into a fight with the Craxians, but right now, the battle raging inside me felt just as dangerous. The guards escorted us through the Starspire's gleaming corridors, their crystal walls reflecting our silhouettes like ghosts. Lyra and Zara walked with purpose, their fur-clad forms drawing curious glances from the crew, but their attention was fixed on me. I tried to focus on the mission, on the Craxian threat, but every step brought me closer to the twins, their scent. That intoxicating blend of jasmine and ozone, clouding my thoughts. By the time we reached our assigned quarters, a spacious chamber with a viewport overlooking the nebula's swirling hues, I was a mess of nerves and something deeper, something I wasn't ready to name. The guards left us with a curt nod, the door sliding shut with a soft hiss. The silence that followed was heavy, charged with an energy that made my skin prickle. Lyra turned to me, her white hair catching the starlight streaming through the viewport, her golden eyes gleaming with an intensity that stole my breath. "You're tense, Eli," she said, her voice a soft melody, teasing but warm. "You need to relax before the battle." "Relax?" I let out a shaky laugh, running a hand through my hair. "We're about to face a Craxian armada, and I'm supposed to what? Take a nap?" My attempt at humor fell flat, and I shifted uncomfortably, aware of how small the room felt with the three of us in it. Zara stepped closer, her movements deliberate, her fur-like outfit hugging her curves in a way that made my pulse race. "Not a nap," she said, her voice low and rich, like a secret shared in the dark. "Something better." Her fingers brushed my arm, a feather-light touch that sent a shiver down my spine. I froze, my mind screaming to keep things professional, but my body had other ideas, drawn to her like a moth to a flame. Lyra moved to my other side, her hand finding my shoulder, her touch gentle but firm. "In Zerathia," she murmured, her breath warm against my ear, "we share strength before a battle. A connection, a moment to ground us." Her words were laced with meaning, and I felt my resolve waver. The air between us was electric, a dance of anticipation and unspoken promises. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I don't know what you mean," I said, but the lie was obvious. I knew exactly what they meant, and the thought sent a rush of heat through me. Lyra's lips curved into a knowing smile, and Zara's eyes darkened, her gaze holding mine with a quiet intensity that made my heart pound. "You do," Zara said, her voice a caress. She stepped closer, her body inches from mine, and I could feel the warmth radiating from her lavender skin. "You feel it, Eli, the bond. It's not just duty, it's us." Her hand slid to my chest, resting over my racing heart, and I couldn't look away from the way her golden eyes seemed to glow, pulling me in. Lyra's fingers traced the line of my jaw, tilting my face toward her. "Let us show you," she whispered, her voice a soft invitation. "No expectations, no demands, just us together before the stars call us to war." Her touch was intoxicating, her closeness overwhelming, and I felt myself leaning into her, drawn by a need I hadn't realized was there. The room seemed to shrink, the nebula's light casting a dreamlike glow over us. I was caught between them, Lyra's gentle warmth on one side, Zara's fierce intensity on the other, and the boundaries I'd tried to maintain crumbled. "Okay," I breathed, the word barely audible, but it was enough. Lyra's smile widened, and Zara's hand tightened on my chest, a silent acknowledgement of the moment we were stepping into. What followed was a dance of connection, not just physical but something deeper, something that felt like it wove our souls together. Lyra's lips brushed mine, soft and tentative at first, then bolder, her kiss tasting of starlight and secrets. Zara's hands slid down my arms, her touch firm and grounding, guiding me into a rhythm that felt as natural as breathing. Their fur-clad outfits fell away, revealing the soft glow of their lavender skin, and I marveled at the beauty of them, the way their fox-like ears twitched with every sigh, every whispered word. The moment was intimate, a shared vulnerability that transcended species or culture. Lyra's laughter, light and musical, filled the air as she teased me for my clumsy human ways, and Zara's low, approving murmurs sent shivers through me. We moved together, a tangle of warmth and trust, each touch a promise, each glance a vow. It wasn't about possession or conquest, it was about unity, about finding strength in each other before the galaxy tried to tear us apart. Time seemed to blur, the stars outside the viewport a silent witness to our connection. When we finally stilled, lying together in the soft glow of the chamber, I felt whole in a way I hadn't since I'd left Earth years ago. Lyra nestled against my side, her white hair splayed across my chest, her breathing steady and calm. Zara lay on my other side, her hand resting over mine, her golden eyes half closed but still watchful, like she was guarding me even now. "That was," I started, then stopped, unsure how to put it into words. "Amazing, life-changing, completely insane, all of the above." Lyra propped herself up on one elbow, her smile playful. "Zerathian enough for you." She teased, and I laughed, the sound easing the lingering tension in my chest. Zara's lips twitched, a rare softness in her expression. "You're learning, Eli," she said, her voice warm. "But the battle's still coming, and we'll need you at your best." The mention of the battle brought me back to reality, but it didn't dim the glow of what we'd shared. I sat up, pulling them both closer, and for a moment we just stayed there, three souls bound by something bigger than ourselves. The Starspire's hum vibrated through the floor, a reminder of the war waiting for us, but I felt stronger, more certain, like their strength had become mine. A soft chime broke the silence, and the chamber's comms panel lit up. Commander Tiva's voice came through, crisp and commanding. "Eli, Lyra, Zara, report to the bridge. The Craxian fleet has been sighted. We engage in 1 hour." My heart skipped, but Lyra's hand found mine, squeezing gently, and Zara's gaze met mine, fierce and unwavering. "We're ready," Lyra said, her voice steady, and I nodded, feeling the weight of our bond settle into something solid, something unbreakable. As we rose, dressing quickly and moving toward the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that what we just shared wasn't just a moment. It was a turning point. The Craxians were coming, and the galaxy was watching. But with Lyra and Zara by my side, I was ready to face whatever came next, even if it meant rewriting the stars themselves. The Starspire's corridors pulsed with a quiet energy as Lyra, Zara, and I hurried toward the bridge, the echo of Commander Tiva's summons still ringing in my ears. The intimacy of our shared moment lingered like a warm current beneath my skin, grounding me even as the looming battle with the Craxians set my nerves on edge. Lyra's hand brushed mine as we walked, her golden eyes catching mine with a reassuring glance, while Zara's steady presence on my other side felt like a shield against the chaos waiting for us. The bond we'd forged wasn't just a feeling, it was a force, and I could sense it strengthening with every step. But as we approached the bridge, a nagging unease settled in my gut, like the galaxy was holding its breath for something I couldn't yet see. The bridge was a marvel of Zarathian design, a circular chamber with walls that shimmered like liquid starlight, displaying real-time holograms of the nebula and the approaching Craxian fleet. Commander Tiva stood at the center, her emerald eyes scanning the data streams, her white hair gleaming under the soft light. The crew moved with precision, their lavender-skinned forms a blur of efficiency, but every head turned as we entered. I felt the weight of their stares, curiosity, judgment, maybe even hope, and I straightened, determined not to look like the out-of-place human I still felt like. Eli, Lyra, Zara, Tiva said, her voice cutting through the hum of the bridge. The Craxian fleet is larger than we anticipated. They've allied with the Dravex Syndicate, a rogue faction with advanced cloaking tech. We're outnumbered, but we have the advantage of terrain. She gestured to the hologram, where the nebula's swirling clouds hid pockets of asteroids and gas pockets. We'll use the nebula to outmaneuver them. Your role, Eli, is critical. I blinked, my stomach lurching. Me, I'm not a tactician, I caught myself before saying a scavenger, remembering Lyra's teasing smile. I mean, what do you need me to do? Tiva's gaze softened, but her tone was unyielding. You carry the bond with the heirs. In Zarathian culture, that makes you a conduit for their strength. You'll pilot the Starspire's command fighter, the Orales, alongside Lyra and Zara. Your human instincts, combined with their skills, could turn the tide. I opened my mouth to protest, me piloting a Zarathian fighter. But Lyra squeezed my hand, her touch steadying me. We trust you, Eli, she said, her voice low but fervent. Zara nodded, her golden eyes fierce with conviction, and I felt a surge of determination. If they believed in me, maybe I could believe in myself. The briefing was swift, Tiva outlining a plan to lure the Craxians into a trap within the nebula's densest region. The Orales was a sleek, organic-looking craft, its controls designed for 3 pilots, a perfect reflection of our bond. As we headed to the hangar, Lyra and Zara flanked me, their presence a quiet reassurance. But that unease in my gut grew sharper, like a warning I couldn't decipher. Something was off, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy was about to pull the rug out from under us. The Orales was a work of art, its hull shimmering like the twins' skin, its cockpit a seamless blend of technology and instinct. We strapped in, Lyra on my left, Zara on my right, our hands moving in sync as we powered up the systems. The fighter hummed to life, its controls responding to my touch like an extension of my will. This is incredible, I muttered, earning a playful smirk from Lyra. Wait until you see what it can do, she said, her fingers dancing over her console. Zara adjusted the weapons systems, her focus razor-sharp, and I felt a thrill of adrenaline. We were a team, a unit, and for the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere. The battle began with a fury that took my breath away. The Starspire and its fleet dove into the nebula, drawing the Craxian and Dravex ships into the trap. The Orales darted through the clouds, its agility unmatched, Lyra calling out maneuvers, while Zara fired precise shots that crippled enemy fighters. I piloted with a focus I didn't know I had, weaving through asteroid fields and gas pockets, the twins, voices a steady rhythm in my ears. We were unstoppable, a force of nature, and for a moment I believed we could win. But then, the twist came, sharp and brutal like a knife in the dark. A new signal blipped on our sensors, not Craxian or Dravex, but something older, something wrong. A massive ship emerged from the nebula's heart, its hull a twisted mass of black metal and glowing red veins, like a wound in reality. It dwarfed the Starspire, its presence radiating a malevolence that made my skin crawl. The comms crackled, and a voice, deep, guttural, and impossibly ancient, filled the cockpit. Heirs of Zarathia, it hissed, and the human who dares to bind them. You cannot hide from the Voidborn. Lyra froze, her breath catching, and Zara's hands tightened on her controls, her eyes wide with something I'd never seen in her: fear. The Voidborn, Zara whispered, her voice trembling. They're a myth, a legend. They can't be real. But the ship was real, and it was moving toward us, its weapons charging with a power that made our sensors scream. Tiva's voice came over the comms, urgent and strained. All units fall back. That's no Craxian ship. It's something else. I gripped the controls, my mind racing. Voidborn? What the hell are they? I demanded, dodging a salvo of energy blasts from the Craxian fighters, who seemed as confused as we were. The Voidborn ship fired, a beam of crimson light slicing through the nebula, narrowly missing the Starspire. The shockwave rocked us, and I fought to keep the Orales steady. Lyra's voice was tight, her usual calm shattered. The Voidborn are ancient, Eli. Older than Zarathia, older than humanity. They're parasites of the cosmos, feeding on civilizations. We thought they were gone, sealed away eons ago. Her golden eyes met mine, and I saw the weight of her fear, her need for me to understand. Zara's jaw clenched, her focus returning. They're here for us, she said. The bond, it's not just Zarathian, it's something more. Something they want. Her words hit me like a punch. The bond, the connection we'd forged, wasn't just a cultural pact or a romantic spark. It was a beacon, a power that had drawn this nightmare from the shadows. The twist deepened as the Voidborn ship targeted the Orales, its sensors locking onto us with terrifying precision. A holographic image flickered in the cockpit, unbidden, showing a figure cloaked in darkness, its eyes glowing red. Human, it said, its voice a violation of everything natural. You have awakened what should have slept. Surrender the heirs, or we will unmake your reality. My blood ran cold, but Lyra's hand found mine, her grip fierce. Don't listen, she said, her voice shaking but resolute. We're stronger together. We can fight this. Zara nodded, her eyes blazing with defiance, and I felt their strength pour into me, a fire against the Voidborn's chill. I slammed the throttle forward, diving the Orales into the nebula's densest cloud, the Voidborn ship in pursuit. The Craxians and Dravex scattered, their alliance crumbling in the face of this new threat. Tiva's voice crackled through the comms, rallying the Zarathian fleet, but I knew the truth. This wasn't a battle we could win with ships or weapons. The Voidborn wanted us, me, Lyra, Zara, and the bond that tied us together. As we wove through the nebula, the Orales' systems flickering under the strain, I realized the twist wasn't just the Voidborn's arrival. It was the revelation that our bond, the thing I'd thought was ours alone, was a cosmic key, a force that could either save the galaxy or doom it. And the Voidborn knew it. Lyra's voice broke through my thoughts, urgent and clear. Eli, there's a way to stop them. The Zarathian beacon, it can be amplified, turned into a weapon, but it needs all of us, our bond, to activate it. Her eyes searched mine, pleading and fierce, and Zara's hand gripped my shoulder, her touch a silent vow. I nodded, my resolve hardening. Tell me what to do, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos. The Voidborn ship loomed closer, its crimson light bathing the cockpit, but I wasn't afraid. Not with Lyra and Zara by my side. Whatever this bond was, whatever it meant, we were about to find out, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Orales streaked through the nebula's swirling clouds, its hull vibrating under the strain of our desperate flight from the Voidborn ship. Lyra's words echoed in my mind. The Zarathian beacon can be amplified, turned into a weapon, and the weight of what she was asking settled over me like a lead cloak. Our bond, this mysterious force that tied me to her and Zara, was no longer just a connection between us. It was a cosmic key, a power that could either banish the Voidborn or unleash something far worse. The cockpit was a blur of flashing alerts and crackling energy, but Lyra's hand in mine and Zara's steady grip on my shoulder kept me anchored. We were in this together, and as the Voidborn's crimson light chased us through the nebula, I knew we were running out of time. Eli, Zara said, her voice cutting through the chaos, sharp and focused. The beacon's core is in the Orales' mainframe. We need to reroute all power to it, but it'll leave us defenseless. Her golden eyes met mine, fierce and unwavering, but I caught a flicker of doubt, a rare crack in her armor. It's a risk, a big one. I swallowed hard, my hands tightening on the controls. No pressure then, I muttered, trying to lighten the mood, but my voice came out shakier than I'd hoped. Lyra let out a soft laugh, her fox-like ears twitching, and the sound was a lifeline in the storm. "You've faced worse odds," she said, her tone teasing but warm. "Remember that Craxian raider you outsmarted with a half-broken cannon." "Barely," I admitted, managing a grin despite the sweat beading on my forehead. "But if this goes wrong, we're not just toast, we're cosmic dust." Her smile widened, and for a moment, the terror of the Voidborn felt distant, like a bad dream we could wake from together. The moment shattered as the Orales shuddered, a grazing shot from the Voidborn ship sending sparks flying from the console. "Reroute the power now," Zara snapped, her fingers already dancing over her controls. I dove into the pilot's interface, my hands moving on instinct, redirecting energy from the shields, weapons, and even life support to the beacon's core. The cockpit grew dim, the hum of the systems fading to a faint whine, and I felt the ship's responsiveness slip away. We were a sitting duck, gambling everything on a plan that might not even work. Lyra leaned over, her white hair brushing my cheek as she worked the beacon's controls. "The amplification needs our bond," she said, her voice low and urgent. "It's not just tech, it's us. Our connection, our trust. We have to open ourselves to it." Her golden eyes searched mine, and I saw a vulnerability there, a plea for me to meet her halfway. "Open ourselves," I repeated, my brow furrowing. "Like, what, hold hands and sing a song?" My attempt at humor fell flat, and Zara shot me a look that was equal parts exasperation and amusement. "Focus, Eli," she said, but her lips twitched, betraying a hint of a smile. "This is serious." I know, I said, raising my hands in mock surrender. "But you're gonna have to explain this mystical bond stuff, because I'm a human, not a Zarathian sage." The Voidborn ship fired again, its crimson beam missing us by inches, and the Orales groaned under the strain. "Okay, maybe now wasn't the time for jokes." Lyra's hand found mine, her grip firm and warm. "It's not mystical," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "It's real. Feel it, Eli. The way we're connected, the way we move together. Let it guide you." Zara's hand joined ours, her touch strong and grounding, and I felt a surge of energy, like a current running through us. It was overwhelming, intimate, a reminder of the moment we'd shared in the Starspire's quarters. But this time, it was bigger, like we were tapping into the heartbeat of the universe itself. I closed my eyes, letting their presence wash over me, and something clicked. The bond wasn't just emotions or attraction, it was a force, a power that pulsed between us, stronger than any weapon. I opened my eyes, meeting Lyra's gaze, then Zara's, and nodded. "Let's do this." The beacon's core hummed to life, a soft glow filling the cockpit, but the process was interrupted by a new alert. The Voidborn ship was closing in, its sensors locking onto us with terrifying precision. Worse, a transmission hacked into our comms, the same guttural voice from before, now laced with a chilling amusement. "You cannot wield what you do not understand, human," it said. "The bond is ours. It was always ours." My blood ran cold, and Lyra's grip tightened, her breath hitching. "They're lying," she whispered, but her voice trembled, and I saw the doubt in her eyes. Zara's jaw clenched, her focus unwavering, but even she seemed shaken. "Keep going," she said, her voice a command. "We're almost there." But the situation was about to get a lot more awkward and a lot more dangerous. The beacon's amplification required more than just our focus. It needed a physical connection, a shared energy that felt almost too intimate for the cockpit of a fighter under attack. Lyra hesitated, her cheeks flushing a deeper shade of lavender. "Eli," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "we need to align our energies, physically. It's part of the ritual." I blinked, my face heating. "Physically? Like what, a group hug in the middle of a dogfight?" My voice cracked, and Zara let out a snort, her composure breaking for a moment. "Not quite," she said, her tone dry but amused. "But close, just trust us." Before I could process what was happening, Lyra leaned in, her lips brushing my cheek, a soft, deliberate touch that sent a jolt through me. Zara's hand slid to my back, her fingers pressing gently, guiding me into a closer formation. It wasn't sensual in the way our earlier moment had been, but it was intimate, a shared vulnerability that made my heart race. The cockpit felt too small, the nebula's glow too bright, and I was hyper-aware of every point of contact. Lyra's warmth, Zara's strength, the way our breaths seemed to sync. Is this normal for Zarathians?" I asked, my voice a mix of nerves and embarrassment. "Because I'm pretty sure humans don't power weapons with whatever this is. Lyra's laugh was soft, almost musical, and Zara's eyes sparkled with mischief. You're doing fine, Lyra said, her tone teasing. For a human. The beacon's glow intensified, its hum rising to a crescendo, but the Voidborn ship was relentless, its crimson beams slicing through the nebula. The Starspire and its fleet were engaging the Craxians and Dravex, but the Voidborn was ours to face, and we were running out of time. The awkwardness of the ritual was overshadowed by the drama of the moment, the knowledge that our bond was the only thing standing between survival and annihilation. Just as the beacon reached its peak, a new hologram flickered in the cockpit, unbidden, showing the Voidborn's cloaked figure. You are too late, it said, its voice a venomous hiss. The bond is corrupted. You have invited us in. The image shifted, revealing a horrifying truth. The beacon's energy was being siphoned, redirected to the Voidborn ship, its red veins pulsing brighter with every second. Lyra gasped, her hand trembling in mine. No, she whispered, her voice breaking. That's impossible. The beacon is ours. Zara's eyes widened, her composure cracking. They've infiltrated the core, she said, her voice tight. They're using our bond against us. My heart sank, the weight of the revelation crushing. Our bond, the thing that had defined us, was being twisted into a weapon for the Voidborn. The drama of the moment was suffocating, the stakes higher than ever, and I felt the twins' fear mirror my own. But I wasn't giving up, not now, not ever. Shut it down, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos. If they're using the beacon, we cut it off. We find another way. Lyra's eyes met mine, filled with a mix of despair and determination, and Zara nodded, her jaw set. Do it, she said. We trust you. I dove into the controls, my hands shaking as I initiated an emergency shutdown, the beacon's glow fading to a flicker. The Voidborn ship roared in protest, its crimson light flaring, but the Orales held firm, our bond still a spark in the darkness. The awkwardness of the ritual, the humor of my human fumbling, the drama of our desperate gamble, it all fused into a single truth. We were fighting for each other, and that was enough. As the beacon powered down, the Voidborn ship slowed, its energy faltering, but a new alert blared. The Starspire was under attack, and Tiva's voice crackled through the comms, strained and urgent. Eli, Lyra, Zara, returned to the flagship. We need you now. I exchanged a glance with the twins, their golden eyes blazing with resolve. The Voidborn weren't done, and neither were we. Whatever came next, we'd face it together, awkward moments and all. The Orales' cockpit was a haze of dim lights and fading alerts as we sped back toward the Starspire, Commander Tiva's urgent call echoing in our ears. The Voidborn ship loomed behind us, its crimson glow dimmed but still menacing, a predator licking its wounds. The beacon's shutdown had slowed it, but the cost was heavy. Our bond, the force that had carried us through battles and bound us in ways I still didn't fully understand, felt fragile, like a thread stretched to its limit. Lyra's hand rested on mine, her golden eyes steady despite the fear I knew she felt, while Zara's presence beside me was a quiet strength. Her focus unbroken even as the Starspire's distress signals painted a grim picture. We fought too hard to lose now, and as the flagship's shimmering hull came into view, I knew this was our last stand, not just for Zarathia, but for us. The hangar bay swallowed the Orales with a gentle pull, and we disembarked into a scene of controlled chaos. Zarathian crew members rushed to repair damaged fighters, their lavender skin glistening with sweat under the hangar's stark lights. Tiva met us at the ramp, her emerald eyes blazing with a mix of determination and exhaustion. The Voidborn are regrouping, she said, her voice tight. They've crippled our outer defenses, and the Craxians are exploiting the breach. We have one chance to end this. Her gaze settled on me, and for the first time, I saw not judgment but trust. Eli, the bond you share with Lyra and Zara, it's our only weapon now. I nodded, my throat tight. The beacon didn't work, I said, the words bitter. The Voidborn turned it against us. How do we fight something that can corrupt our own strength? Tiva's lips pressed into a thin line, but Lyra stepped forward, her white hair catching the light like a halo. The beacon was a tool, she said, her voice soft but resolute. The real power is us, our bond, our will. The Voidborn feed on division, on fear. We can starve them by standing together. Her golden eyes met mine, and I felt a spark of hope, fragile but real. Zara's hand found my shoulder, her touch grounding me. We need to face them directly, she said, her tone fierce. No tech, no tricks, just us in the heart of their ship. Her words were a challenge, a call to action, and I realized what she was proposing. A suicide mission, a desperate gamble to confront the Voidborn on their own turf. I opened my mouth to protest, but the look in their eyes stopped me. They weren't asking me to lead or follow, they were asking me to stand with them as equals. "All right," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Let's finish this." Tiva led us to the bridge, where a holographic map showed the Voidborn ship lurking at the nebula's edge, its red veins pulsing like a diseased heart. The plan was simple but terrifying. The Orales would carry us into the Voidborn ship's core, where we'd confront whatever entity powered it. The Starspire and its fleet would hold off the Craxians and Dravex, buying us time. As we prepared to launch, Tiva pulled me aside, her expression unreadable. "You've changed them, Eli," she said quietly. "Lyra and Zara, they're stronger with you. Don't let them down." "I won't," I promised, the weight of her words settling into my bones. I glanced at the twins, who were checking the Orales' systems, their movements synchronized and sure. They were my strength, my reason, and I'd fight for them until my last breath. The Orales launched into the nebula, its hull shimmering as we dove toward the Voidborn ship. The journey was eerily silent, the enemy's weapons dormant, as if they were waiting for us. Lyra's hand rested on my arm, her touch a quiet reassurance, while Zara's golden eyes scanned the sensors, her focus unwavering. "They know we're coming," she said, her voice low. "They want us to." "Good," I said, gripping the controls. "Let's give them something to remember." The Voidborn ship's core was a cavernous chamber, its walls writhing with red veins that pulsed like a living thing. We landed the Orales on a platform of black metal, the air thick with a malevolent energy that made my skin crawl. The cloaked figure from the holograms stood at the chamber's center, its red eyes glowing through the darkness. "You come to your end, human," it said, its voice a violation of reality. "The bond is ours, you are nothing." Lyra stepped forward, her fur-clad form radiant against the chamber's gloom. "You're wrong," she said, her voice clear and defiant. "The bond is ours, and it's stronger than you'll ever understand." Zara moved beside her, her hand finding mine, and I felt our connection flare, a light against the Voidborn's darkness. The figure laughed, a sound that grated against my soul, and the chamber came alive, tendrils of red energy lashing toward us. I dove to the side, pulling Lyra and Zara with me, and we fought as one, our movements fluid and instinctive. The tendrils were fast, relentless, but our bond was faster, a shield of will that deflected their attacks. I didn't know how we were doing it. Maybe it was Zarathian magic, maybe it was human stubbornness. But every time the Voidborn struck, we pushed back, our connection growing stronger. The figure roared, its form shifting, growing larger, its eyes blazing with fury. "You cannot win." It bellowed, and the chamber shook, the platform cracking beneath us. But Lyra's laughter rang out, bright and fearless, and Zara's grip on my hand tightened, her strength pouring into me. "We already have," Lyra said, and I realized what she meant. The Voidborn thrived on fear, on isolation, but our bond was love, trust, unity, everything they couldn't touch. I took a step forward, my voice steady. "You want our bond? Come and take it." The words were a challenge, a defiance born of everything we'd been through, the battles, the moments of vulnerability, the laughter, and the pain. Lyra and Zara stood with me, their golden eyes blazing, and together, we poured everything into our bond. A surge of light that filled the chamber, drowning the Voidborn's darkness. The figure screamed, its form unraveling, the red veins collapsing into ash. The chamber trembled, the Voidborn ship breaking apart around us, but the Orales held firm, its systems flaring to life as we scrambled aboard. We launched into the nebula just as the ship imploded, a silent explosion of light that lit up the stars. The Starspire's fleet cheered over the comms, the Craxians and Dravex retreating in disarray, their alliance shattered. We landed in the Starspire's hangar, battered but alive, and Tiva met us with a rare smile. "You did it," she said, her voice thick with pride. "The Voidborn are gone, and Zarathia owes you a debt we can never repay." I shook my head, glancing at Lyra and Zara, who stood close, their warmth a quiet anchor. "We did it together," I said, and the twins' smiles were brighter than any star. Days later, we stood on a Zarathian citadel, its crystal spires gleaming under a twin-sun sky. The council had honored us, declaring our bond a symbol of hope for their people. Lyra and Zara were no longer just heirs, they were heroes, and I was no longer just a scavenger. I was theirs, and they were mine, in a way that transcended titles or duties. As we watched the sun set, Lyra leaned against me, her white hair soft against my shoulder. "What now, Eli?" she asked, her voice a melody. Zara's hand found mine, her golden eyes warm with possibility. "The galaxy's big," she said. "Plenty of adventures left." I laughed, pulling them both close, the weight of the void lifting at last. Now, we explore together. The stars stretched out before us, endless and inviting, and I knew, with Lyra and Zara by my side, there was nothing we couldn't face. The galaxy had tried to break us, but we'd rewritten its rules, and our story was just beginning.